It's a willingness to put yourself in the spotlight, for better or for worse, but if you do it enough, eventually there's going to be positive benefits. Hey guys, Hector Castillo Poppy from girlschase.com. Today I want to talk about car salesman charisma and why if you don't have it, you shouldn't want it, but there are things you can learn from it, and if you do have it, some tips that you can help yourself maybe edge it out a little bit or soften it down and add a little bit more sincerity and realness to your charisma to make you more charismatic in the long run. So car salesman charisma, you're quite familiar with it. I'm sort of doing it right now. It's pretty much the YouTube default. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a giveaway or we're going to be doing a prank. It's obviously successful to a certain degree, probably because of the medium requires you to be a little bit more engaging, and it can be contagious. The emotions and the fun can help get people into the mood. In person, you probably met these kind of people. They tend to lean towards sales jobs or be very extroverted in parties or at work and in their social life. And they probably have an above average success when it comes to making friends, being popular, being well liked, maybe getting with girls. A lot of the guys who I know who are very successful with women tend to have this personality, though I know men from every walk of life and every personality type that can do well with women, so it's definitely not the mold that you have to follow. But I want to go into it a little bit and why it has some weaknesses. So outside of the camera, and even on camera, maybe you see people doing this personality and it's fun and engaging, but maybe it rubs you wrong and it just feels a little bit fake, like they're putting on this act. So the problem with car salesman charisma is that it comes off forced and it comes off insincere. So the forced part kind of makes you feel like that person's trying too hard, which can signal some alarm bells of like they want to be the center of attention and they want the spotlight and they want to be liked, and that can have a counterintuitive effect on their goal of being liked, where maybe they're genuinely popular, but then they'll have some haters, I guess, people who maybe, I think a lot of it does come from people who aren't that personality and they just naturally find it to be their antithesis. Maybe there's people who are just unhappy and they hate seeing people who are happy. So there can be some haters behind the hate, but some genuine distrust can develop from it on the insincerity side, because they feel like this person's putting up a front and that's not the real them, and they can't be happy all the time. And that makes people think that, you know, maybe they're a fucking psychopath and they're just putting on this act and they're not really that happy and they're just doing it to achieve their own goals. So it can feel insincere, like they're not really being nice to you. And I've met a lot of people who are very sociable, and they're the kind of guy who's, when they talk to you, you're gonna feel like they're your best friend and they really like you. But then when it comes time to answering your texts or wanting to actually spend time with you and hang out with you, they're suddenly not there anymore, because the show while it was going on seemed very real, but then when it comes time for the real being friendly part, they're not gonna be there, which can have real reasons behind it. They're very busy and well liked, so they have a lot of options when it comes to hanging out with people or girls. But there is that sense of like, I remember one time really stuck out as a guy who I worked with, probably one of the best seducers I've ever met in my entire life. But he did have a little bit of that, you know, he always knew what to say, always put on a good face, would never do anything that, I mean, he'd do risky stuff, but it was always well timed. Like, he was just a genius. He was dead, like dumb as fucking rocks when it came to anything outside of like socializing, but when it came to just social intuition, this guy was a fucking genius. Just the way that he moved, you would see him so fluidly calculated. And when I say calculated, you're thinking of what you might see, but trust me, it just felt like the most natural guy ever. But I remember one time there was a different guy who, I guess he wasn't that popular at work. I mean, I'm not saying I was popular either. I definitely wasn't to some degree. But I guess one of the lower level guys, because social hierarchies do exist, and especially in the nightlife industry. And I remember one time this guy was talking to the natural, and natural was like, yeah, man, we should hang out sometime, definitely. And the guy, the other guy who just kind of gave him this look like, I mean, I've hit you up a few times and you never got me back. He wasn't like, he didn't press him about it, but you could see on his face, he was just like, yeah, but do you really actually follow through with that? And it was just like a moment, and the guy was just like, oh, yeah, whatever, just like kind of push it under the rug. And I remember in that moment, I was just like, his veneer dropped a little bit, and the mirage was kind of broken for a second. Now, overall, he's very successful with girls, amazing with women. This guy would pull tents all the time. Very popular guy. It helped that he was really good looking and tall and, immaculate in his, looked perfect always. So there are pluses to this kind of demeanor. I mean, don't get me wrong, but if you're maybe more introverted, or not necessarily introverted, a lot of people think they're introverted, but they're really not. Just give them some alcohol and you'll kind of see their real desires come out and their real personality that's a little bit blocked by anxiety. But if you are maybe not that, you could see that and think, wow, I wish I could be more like that. And there are things you can take from it, that willingness to be in the spotlight. I think that's the biggest thing, is I'm willing to have the attention on me. People who are extroverted get pleasure from it, and it drains people who are introverted. That's more of what introversion is it drains you to do social things. So it takes a lot of energy, whereas extroverts feed on that energy. It's a willingness to put yourself in the spotlight, for better or for worse, but if you do it enough, eventually there's gonna be positive benefits. So you should take from that, from the car salesman, he's willing to walk up to the person walking in the lot because he wants to make money, all right? And in social environments, don't see it like transactionally in a psychopathic way, but there is a degree of transactionalness to social interactions, but it's not lifeless, and it's not, like only business. There are, of course, genuine feelings involved, but there is a transactional element. And so when you start to see socializing from somewhat of a transactional degree and not from a bitter, like everyone just wants their own thing and everyone, no, like, okay, we get, I get something from this friendship or this conversation, and this person gets something from it, and hopefully we're both giving each other value. That's what a good high value man does. He gives value, but of course he's gonna get value in return. So an extroverted person is gonna give people these emotions through his time on the stage, being the center of attention, telling a story, walking up to people, being willing to introduce yourself first in a party where you don't know people, at work, being the person who's willing to go take the new customer and not just be like, oh, fuck, another person. So all environments, social, professional, romantic, willing to go talk to that woman, those are the positive aspects of the car salesman personality that you should take from it, but don't glorify it. Because one negative that comes from the car salesman personality is it seems forced. And when you seem forced, people suspect that it just doesn't feel real. And because it doesn't feel real, it doesn't have the effect that you would want it to have. But the most important, or the most significant flaw of the car salesman personality is the insincerity. Like, people don't feel like you're actually being nice to them for the sake of that you actually find them interesting, or you're curious about them, or you just feel good. So what rounds out the edges of a car salesman personality? So this is for people who maybe glorify it, but also people who have it and maybe want to work on it a little bit. When you're doing the whole like, hey man, how are you, da-da-da, there's gotta be gaps in between. Don't be the person always rushing to the spotlight. Don't always be the loudest in the room, because you're used to being up there if you have that personality. So if you catch yourself doing it too much, what I want you to do is on occasion, pull yourself back, like kind of hold yourself in and allow yourself just to, you don't have to be a wallflower necessarily, but you can for a few minutes see what will happen if I pull myself back. And with clients who I noticed have car salesman personality, this is what I tell them to do, is try to increase the amount of time where you shut the fuck up and you're a little bit quiet. Or, be willing to share opinions that maybe aren't the popular one, or safe opinions and safe feelings and safe comments, because it's those things that you say that maybe aren't politically correct is not even the right word here. The pro-social, like, fun things to say. When you say the things that don't fit that category, those are the moments where someone gets a glimpse into your real personality. What that really just means is like feelings that you don't necessarily share off the cuff, and moods that you don't necessarily share because you're always that guy. But if you show them, that's a moment where people see another side of you, and they're going to get a more well-rounded picture of who you are. And the converse is true for the people who aren't the car salesman personality. The moment where you do show that extroversion and fun-lovingness is the moment where they also get to see a more fleshed out personality. I remember when I was in college, I was in a religion class with some guy, and I guess that day I was just being the know-it-all. And then he saw me at a party. It was that night or that weekend. And he walked up and he was like, "Hey, what's up, Hector?" I'm like, "Hey, man, how are you?" And I'm drinking, and, I'm buzzed and just having fun. He's like, "I didn't think you partied." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, dude, my first impression of you was just that, you were kind of like a class nerd or something," I was like the biggest party boy at my school. And I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's cool to see you partying. Like, I don't know. I just didn't think you had that side to you, but I guess I judged you wrong." And in that moment, he judged me more beneficially, more positively, and had a better reception of me. And that's a good thing. I mean, socializing involves being judged positively, negatively, or neutrally. That's fundamentally, don't be bitter about it. That's just how things work. It can be taken to extremes, of course, but that's socializing, okay? We're gonna judge each other. You judge other people, people are gonna judge you. So, in order to have more fun and get the things that we want in social interactions, affection, popularity, friends, girls, car salesman personality, it shouldn't be glorified, but you can take the bits and pieces from it that are beneficial, which I went over. But then if you have it, or to make sure if you try to develop a more extroverted personality because you have that kernel of extroversion in you that just hasn't been watered and blossomed yet, make sure that you don't take it too far. And there are moments where you just shut up, let other people talk. Maybe you can share opinions or moods. Maybe you're not in the best mood. So instead of forcing yourself to have that personality, just allow yourself to be a little bit more, you're inwards and maybe you're not feeling that great. And it's okay. You can just be placid. It's okay to sometimes be, yeah, what's up, calm. Because you see the colors are more vibrant when they're put in contrast to other colors. The metaphor makes sense. So if you're always extroverted, if you add some color to it, the black and the white are gonna pop more, and you're gonna overall have a more interesting persona that's gonna be more, it's gonna have a stronger gravitational pull of people to you, which is what charisma is. It's this pull towards you. So the attention, and when you're always talking and you don't talk, you'll find that when you choose not to talk, people are gonna choose to maybe talk to you and ask you a question more often than if you looked like you were seeking it, because you created this emptiness to allow other people to come to you. So those are some tips on the car salesman personality. It's obviously very widespread, and it's a very common personality on YouTube. And some of you who don't have it might wish you have it. But those are my thoughts on the positives of it, the negatives of it, and then if you do have that personality, some tips on how you can round it out and in the end become more charismatic. So cool. Hector Castillo, Poppy from girlschase.com. Please like, subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll see you soon